Welcome to New Rechts, or for English listeners, New Right. My name is Daniel de Liever, and today I'm glad to talk with the Taiwanese ambassador about the situation in Taiwan. It is a topic that is underappreciated, so I'm glad to dive into it today. So thank you that you made the time so we could have a conversation today.
Yes, Daniel, very happy to see you here.
And I looked at your CV, it's very long, so I will just say a few things for people that do not know you, but you were the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs between 2020 and 2025. And what I also noticed that you, in many countries, you played a role, like you were also the Director General of the Department of East Asia and Pacific Affairs. It's a long name between 2011 in 2013, and also something that now in the news is, I guess, more prominent is India, and you were also the representative of Taipei Economic and Cultural Center there. So
right,
that is very many different countries, and now of course we are in the Netherlands.
Right.
But maybe let's start with some personal questions. First of all, how did you get into diplomacy? Because it's something that it's not the standard career path, so to speak.
Huh. Well, Daniel, that's about 50 years ago when I graduated from university. It's 1975. So exactly 50 years ago when I graduated. During that period of time, to go out of the country probably is still very difficult, not like today. But I have a kind of a drive, a passion. I want to see the world. What is the world all about? And I think there are only one or two passages to make me to go out of the country to see the world. On the other hand, I can take this opportunity to serve my country. I think diplomacy probably is one of the top choices I had. And also I can go to to be a seafarer. But seafarer, wow. Not like your people a long time ago, 400 some years ago, you already be a seafarer, very good. But I'm not, because I served because we had a kind of a compulsory military service. So I was sent to offshore island. I had to go there by boat. The sea was rough. You know, yeah, it's difficult. I say, wow, to be a seafarer the rest of my life probably would be very difficult. So I choose diplomacy probably is a better way. So I started to become a diplomat, passing some examinations, and then here I am in the Netherlands.
And what has been the biggest surprise for you in your time as serving as a diplomat?
Well, you see, the country, Taiwan, the Republic of China, is always under kind of a threat for the last 70 years. So must have someone to tell the story, to work for the country, to tell the outside world, what is Taiwan all about? What is the benefit to be a friend with Taiwan? So this is exactly the diplomat should do. So for the past 40 some years, I think I've met so many good friends. I've told so many stories about Taiwan. I think that kind of message over that kind of a long period of time, I'm hoping that the rest of the world can understand Taiwan better than before.
And if there's one thing that you would like people to take from our conversation today about Taiwan that they might not know, what would be that?
Well, Taiwan is a small country, but you see, over so many years, Taiwan, like I said, under the threat of the neighbor, big neighbor. But somehow we can survive. We can also be a good service to the world, to be a good stakeholder for international. So let people look at Taiwan under kind of a situation, how Taiwan can survive, can thrive, and to be a good citizen of the world. I think that's very, very, we're hoping to be a model, if we could. A lesson can be told for the other country to be seeing there's a small country in Asia can become a hub of high tech and can be the hub of education and a cultural, something like that. I think that's very important.
It's a good point, and I think many people don't know that much, sadly, about Taiwan. What do you actually think also, you are now in the Netherlands, what do you think of what the relationship is between the Netherlands and between Taiwan?
Well, frankly, our relation started about 400 some years ago. I think that's very, very interesting connections that we have. 400 years ago, your forefathers came to Taiwan, came to our shore. And then ever since then, our relationship probably taking uphill, a good trajectory, you know, until I think in the early 60s, when Taiwan started to build our light industry, our heavy industry, something like that. Your company, Philips, started to invest in Taiwan. That's how we basically connected in the high-tech sections. So ever since then, we, TSMC and your ASMLs have created something that's wonderful. It's pretty much advanced than any other countries. So from that basis, I think we can benefit the people all around the world if AI is inevitable. I think AI, artificial intelligence, will be inevitable for the whole world. And if Taiwan and Netherlands, we can work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, which we are already, how can we build up more under that very solid foundations to benefit the people? I think that's a very, very interesting topic we can search.
Definitely. I think AI definitely, no matter if you like it or you don't like it, it's definitely here becoming more prominent as everyone is seeing. And I'm also quite curious more on the personal side. If you've served Taiwan in many different countries, if there are not that many people that get the opportunity to live in so many different countries. So what would be the thing that you took as, you could say, part of wisdom that you would want to give to the next generation, learning from living in so many different cultures?
Well, actually to live in different countries is kind of a norm for diplomat. You have to accept different culture, different environment. For the young people, I think you have more opportunity than I had before. So traveling probably is no longer a problem. The thing is, when you face some difficulties, how do you deal with it? A lot of people say you have to jump out of your comfort zone to face difficulties. But my theory is, for the young people, you have to extend, you have to enlarge your comfort zone. So you feel very comfortable at home or at school. Okay, why don't you enlarge that comfort zone to the society? And then from the society, you enlarge to other countries. So doing that, you do everything in your comfort zone. You have more confidence. You feel more likely to do things. But easy said than done. How do you extend? How do you enlarge your comfort zone? You must have a very, very positive thinking. Can never be passive or negative. Of course, people face difficulties all the times, but as long as you have a positive attitude and the way to do it, I think you can enlarge your comfort zone.
That's a good point.
Excuse me.
No problem. I do think this is something definitely that many people struggle with. I think if we move now towards Taiwan, I think one of the things I think would be interesting for people to know about is also about Taiwanese culture. Before we dive more into the politics, is what do you think is the most distinct thing about Taiwanese culture?
Well, first of all, I think when you define culture, you define it as a noun or verb. To me, I think culture is a verb. You're always involving the culture. It's a combination, accumulation of centuries of things. So Taiwan culture, basically, I think, is a combination from Spanish, Dutch, Japanese, and indigenous people. We have 16 tribes nowadays in Taiwan. So that kind of things put it together probably nurture the so-called unique Taiwanese culture. And that culture still nowadays still evolving by receiving some other cultures from some other places. So Taiwan culture, first of all, I think is very important, is a free society. So the culture-wise, the religion-wise, are free. Mm-hmm. So you don't see that conflict particularly between different culture, different religion, different race, different people. I think that we probably coexist harmoniously. I think that's very, very important. Once you go to Taiwan, you can see different culture, but the beauty is we all coexist very beautifully. I think that probably is the most distinctive culture of Taiwan.
Okay, so if I would summarize, it's like kind of a melting pot of different cultures.
True.
And would you say that there are still some distinct traditions in Taiwan that would be interesting for people to know?
Oh yeah. Taiwan, if you come to Taiwan, you don't feel you are a stranger. You feel you're part of Taiwan society. Another thing is you feel very, very safe in the society. People walk in the street during the night. You don't have to worry. People, you leave your cell phone on the table, go to these, wash your hands, you come back, the cell phone's still there. That's the beauty of Taiwan. So people, hospitable, very friendly. We would like to show our hospitality to the foreigners as one of us. So you have to go there by yourself to sense the beauty of Taiwan culture.
And that's, if I want to make it concrete. I will give you an example. In the Netherlands, we have things around Christmas or around Sinterklaas, if you have heard of that. Are there also these kind of traditions, more, you could say, not how society functions, but more specific traditions that you think are distinct for Taiwanese culture?
Well, we have several festivals, like the moon festivals or Dragon Boat festivals. We also have a spring festival. That kind of festival probably distinct, aside from that, like your King's Day. We have several things probably belongs to Taiwan alone, like a pilgrimage to the goddess to patrol, whatever. It's just happening. So also Aborigines celebrations for the harvest. I think there are some festivals that only happen in Taiwan.
And for example, if you take this moon festival, is there specific foods you eat? Or I'm trying to paint a picture, because, for example, I've never been at the moon festival, so it's hard to imagine what something like that will be like.
Moon festival probably symbolizes the people get together. All the family members from afar probably come back. So we all enjoy kind of a moon cake. Moon cake, probably, if I can use like your stroop waffle, but enlarge that. Make it thicker, about 10 times thicker and smaller. We put something very sweet inside. It symbolizes togetherness, because a round shape, togetherness. And people come back, and we believe that very night, the moon is the brightest, the largest. So all the family members get together to enjoy the family get-together, enjoy the food, enjoy the togetherness, happiness, something like that. It's a beautiful day.
Sounds very lovely.
Oh, it is.
I'm curious. I think many people would, who don't know much about Taiwan, they would also want to know what the distinction, of course, would be with China, of course, also culturally. Mm-hmm. Later, we're going to talk about the political, but more if you now center on the cultural. What do you think is the major difference between Taiwanese culture, like you described, and Chinese culture?
I think basically these two culture-wise originated from the same places. But over the years, because if a regime without freedom, the culture will not be prosper. It's a very simple fact. Just like a tree without water, the tree cannot grow in that environment. So the same culture, put it into Taiwan perspective, we can enlarge them. We can enrich their culture. So now you look these two cultures from China and Taiwan, make a comparison. I think you can see that the freedom and the vibrance of the culture happening in Taiwan. On the other hand, I think China on their part, because of lack of the freedom, lack of a free mind, if lack of that, culture would not die with her. So I think that's a major, major difference. And of course, like I said, Taiwan culture also put in some other ingredients from other countries, from some other cultures, our indigenous people. So make it a culture more colorful, more vibrant, more beautiful.
I think that's it's a nice way of putting it. And of course, if we're talking about China, of course, there's also politically there is tension, to say the least, between China and Taiwan. It's not a secret that China openly says that they want to take over Taiwan. What is your perspective on the conflict between Taiwan and China?
Well, China always wanted to take back Taiwan. That's in the DNA, whatever. But look at the fact: Taiwan is already a sovereign state. We have our own land, our own people, our own law, and our currency. And we are capable and able to manage our things. So this is exactly a state qualification, no doubt about that. And China, they always think Taiwan is part of China, which is not true. You look at all the documentations, you look at they always want to use United Nations resolution 2758. That was when PROC take over the ROC seat in the United Nations, 1971. So they passed a resolution 2758. But that is only given to seat to the People's Republic of China. Nothing mentioned about Taiwan. So Taiwan does not belong to China. There's a clear, very clear. But China always used 2758, trying to misuse it and tell the other world. You see, United Nations already give the seat to us, so Taiwan belongs to China, which is not true. And a lot of countries already, even great nations, 2758 is not recognized by your country.
And what do you think about, there is of course tremendous pressure from China not to recognize Taiwan. I can imagine as a diplomat that it's something that can be challenging. But what do you think that the majority of countries still in the world have a hard time to recognize Taiwan as a sovereign country?
Well, actually, not really. Now you see the countries around the world, they are more recognize Taiwan as a sovereign state, for that matter, even though we have only 12 countries with which we have diplomatic relations. However, we have about 111 offices all around the world to promote the relations between Taiwan and that particular countries. Like in the Netherlands, we have a representative office here, promote the relations between Taiwan and Netherlands. So I think the story has to be told, the truth has to be told to the other countries. And from the previous record, you see all over Taiwan being supported by the like-minded countries is getting stronger and stronger. Particularly from your parliamentarians support. Last year, you have organized a parliamentarian group to come to Taiwan and pay a visit, and then your parliamentarian also passed 4 very important moves to support Taiwan. And last May, you have your Navy, Royal Navy, sent a brigade of Trump frigates to patrol Taiwan water. All that things gradually telling the world Taiwan is not alone. Taiwan is not alone.
And are you optimistic that more and more countries will officially get diplomatic relations in the near future with Taiwan?
I'm very cautiously optimistic. Cautiously. You see, in that comparison between Taiwan and China, you can see that China's reputation is lower and getting lower. And Taiwan, on the other hand, is elevated. There are a couple of reasons. I think the most obvious reason is when the COVID happened, Taiwan was first country, I would say. We have donated about 50 million face masks to 80-some countries around the world. And most of them, they have no experience of that kind of a pandemic. So that kind of gestures really make those countries feel much, much safer. Aside from that, we also supply some medical supplies for other countries. And then we have created a kind of what we call the force for good. So in reciprocity, some other countries in the later days also returned the favor to Taiwan. They have donated something to Taiwan, like Japan donated 4.2 million doses to Taiwan, and Czech Republic. Those countries also show the support to Taiwan. That is something you will never see from the China, would it? So that kind of comparison is very obviously in many, many areas, like Turkey has an earthquake. Taiwan was the first country to get in. And when Russia invaded Ukraine, Taiwan was also the first country to donate 700 tons of relief goods plus 50 million US dollars for their people who were in need. That kind of deeds really wanted to show Taiwan we wanted to be a responsible stakeholder in international communities. That's yeah.
So you're trying to do good, but on the other hand, we see with, for example, the rise of BRICS, we see that the counterpart is also rising. So what do you think of the, let's say, people from the other side of kind of countries that they're also trying to unite to form their own bloc of superpowers?
Well, you look those countries, of course, China trying to use their might, whether in the economic might or military might, to woo those countries on their side. But one thing I wanted to caution, because that kind of might, particularly economic might, like they're implementing so-called the Belt and Road Initiative. If you look the record of the BRI, there are so many examples be cautioned. Say in Sri Lanka, they built the port for the countries. The country Sri Lanka has to get a loan from China. But in the end, the country Sri Lanka will not pay back the loan. So Sri Lanka has to lease that the port, Hambantota, to China for 99 years. That created the kind of, we call it, that trap for those countries, which is probably, they have to think twice if they want to work together with China. On the other hand, Taiwan's support, we support some countries, medical. We support them in aquaculture, energy, that kind of things. They don't have to pay back. That's exactly the different way to deal with the situation. I can give you so many examples.
It's good. Maybe you can give another example. I think it's nice for people to hear. I do see indeed that countries, especially also in African countries, are paying literally and figuratively a huge price for their collaboration on infrastructure with China. Yes. Well,
let me give you a couple of examples that we provide in the Pacific Islands. Taiwan is an island country, so we consider we are an island people, of course. So there are a couple of small countries. When I say small, on the landmass it's small. But the maritime, ocean-wise, they are big mass, big ocean countries. I always tell them, you are not small, you are big in ocean-wise. Like Tuvalu, only 10,000 people. I was ambassador to there. So those countries, because of geographically distance, their lack of fresh fruit, vegetables. So we have a special called TTM, Taiwan special team to go there to teach them how to cultivate, to grow a vegetable from the land without soil, the coral. So we use a compost and mix with the sand, soil, and make a very nutrition soil for them to grow vegetables. By doing so, we would like to change probably their habit of diet. Because of people lack of vegetable, they tend to have chronic diseases like cardio problems, obesity, that kind of things. So by doing so, we offer them free vegetables and we teach them how to grow. They change the habit of diet, number one. Number two, because those countries are being the victim of the sea level rise, greenhouse effect. But honestly, they don't produce anything to harm the atmosphere. But so we help them to build the solar panels to generate electricity so that they don't have to rely on the fossil oil. Number three, because of the remoteness, their healthcare is always an issue. So we have kind of a policy called one country, one center. Center means a hospital. Mm-hmm. We designate one hospital, especially to look after one country. So the hospital will build some clinic or hospital-like things in their country, provide the necessary equipment. And on top of that, our doctors and nurses on a regular or irregular basis to visit their country to help them to build up their medical systems. This is another thing. So on and on, we are trying to benefit the people, not to benefit the particular politicians. If you look at the other side, they benefit particular politicians. Let me tell you one more thing about Belt and Road Initiative. They build a road, of course, but the quality, number one, is in question. Number two, when they build a road for a certain country, all the raw materials coming from China, all the workers coming from China. So they are not benefit the local constructions people-wise. They are not increasing the employment rate. They don't help them to consume their local productions. And on top of that, when they finish the road, some of the people will stay in the country and to build up their company to bid against their local companies. You see, this is something being on and on, so many examples. So you can make
I do see the big distinction. I'm quite curious as well. I think one of the few things that you would see in the Dutch news is about, let's say, full-scale attack of China on Taiwan. Do you think this is a realistic threat that Taiwan currently faces?
Sorry, your question?
If there is a realistic threat of China to actually launch a full attack to take over Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, technically, the attack already happened. They've been implemented so-called the gray zone warfares long before. They used their, like I said, economic might to ban the Taiwan merchandise to go into to China. There's so many examples, not only to Taiwan. You see also to Australia, also to Korea, neighboring countries. So if I may give you some examples.
Of course.
I remember Australia once trying to find out the originated, where the COVID-19 was originated, probably pointing to the other side. They are very angry, so they stopped importing Australia red wine and lobsters. So the business of red wine and lobsters being damaged tremendously in Australia. However, Taiwan during that period of time, we import a lot of red wine and lobsters from Australia. And we believe this is trying to reduce the pressure from the Australian business, because I think we keep a pretty close, cordial relations with Australia. Mm-hmm. So we help them. There's something interesting. So when we buy so many red wine and lobsters from Australia, so in the official banquet, we always serve Australia red wine and Australia lobsters. And we give them a nickname, Freedom Red Wine and the Freedom Lobsters. I have another joke, because I participated so many times. So by drinking and eating, of course, I get so much cholesterol. You know, sometimes cholesterol. I call them freedom cholesterol. This is something Taiwan wanted to be part of it. Even Korea. Korea also happened, because China used to be the largest destination for Korean tourism. I believe 1 year, Korea going to deploy THAAD system. It's a missile system. And facing China, China was not happy. So they stopped the Chinese tourists to come to Korea. So overnight, Korean tourism collapsed. So they use that kind of technique or coercion, not only to Taiwan, to any other country who rely on them one way or the other.
I do think that's a fair point. You could say that's economic, like warfare.
Okay. Also militarily. You see, since the 2022, when the Speaker of the House, United States, Nancy Pelosi, visited Taiwan, they have military drill, large scale around Taiwan water. And then, if my memory is correct, last year alone, they have 5,000 flights flying over Taiwan, intruding our ADIZ and ships along Taiwan waters, trying to demonstrate that water belongs to them, to China, which is not true. This is why the United States, the France, the Canada, and the Netherlands, they all sent their ship to come into this water, trying to tell them this is free and open waters, because the water is so important. It carries about 1/5 of the whole world trading volume, probably two plus some trillion US dollars. So if that water being militarized or being domesticated, that's hurting not only Taiwan, the neighboring countries as well, the energy community. So they have to do that many times. Last year, end of last year, they launched two very important drills. One is called the Joint Sword 2024A and Joint Sword 2024B. And the beginning of this year, they also staged so-called the Straight Thunder 2025A. Maybe, in other words, they probably have a 2025 B and C in that order. So they have done that many, many times, trying to intimidate not only Taiwan, also the neighboring country.
Definitely. And I guess the fear is that the next step could be like a full-on invasion. You could say it's now military threats, but there's no military invasion, full force invasion yet. Do you think this is a likely scenario?
Well, I can't tell on their part, but Taiwan, we believe the peace must be through strength. Taiwan, we have to build up our defense forces, and we are doing it. This is why we have extended our mandatory service for the young people from 4 months to 1 year, and we're trying to purchase more defense weapons. And we are also to educate our people how to deal with if there's something happen. We have to furnish our bunker, that kind of things, shelters, that things for people to understand. So by doing so, we are going to tell the world that we are not provoking. We are trying to do whatever is status quo to keep the peace in the Taiwan waters. So there's another thing we hope the like-minded country to do is we need support from like-minded country to tell the other side this is not to benefit anyone. So we're prepared, but we are not going to provoke.
That's a good point. And on a more personal level, I don't know if you personally have children or grandchildren, but anyway, in your country, in Taiwan, you have many young people. Are you afraid of what kind of future might hold for them if China does not listen and actually provokes this escalation towards an invasion?
One thing, we are not going to provoke. So we are not going to be the reason cause their invasion, number one. Number two, we are cautiously alert, particularly what happened between Russia and Ukraine. We're not panicking. We're not panicking, but we are ready. But I think one thing is very, very important. This is, we believe the government can make a very strategic proposal or strategy to prevent these things from happening.
Of course, but I meant more that even if you have, on a political level, you have all things in order, you still have a threat that, for example, people in the Netherlands, we don't have that. We don't have any neighboring countries that is...
So this is why you are the happiest country, number fifth, the happiest country in the world. But Taiwan, on the other hand, we are the happiest country in Asia. We rank 27, which means we are alert, but we are not going to be panic or be affected by that kind of threat. We've been living under that shadow for the last 70 years. And people are ready, people are alert, and people know what to do when it happens.
And they're also hopeful for the future of a bright future for Taiwan?
Of course, of course. This is why you can see a lot of, I think, investment also coming to Taiwan. So that means the other foreign investors are very confident to Taiwan. So I don't see that kind of a threat will basically affect our daily life. No.
That's good.
Yeah.
One thing else I noticed was that the president of Taiwan, that was recently said that there's also, you would say, infiltration of China in the system in Taiwan. Of course, there are measurements now being taken to counteract that, but I can imagine it's quite difficult. So what are your thoughts on this infiltration of China into Taiwan?
Well, again, this is part of their gray zone warfare. They're using the might of economy, they're using my military. Now they're using espionage to do that. They're using every possible way to try to sabotage internally Taiwan as well. So we realized the seriousness of that. So our president not long ago to announce the very important policy of in five areas you have to be very cautious, and he has about 17 ways to deal with it. If you like, I can provide you the detail. But on the other hand, we know that we have to equip ourselves for that matter. We have to educate the people, be aware of that China would do everything possible to sabotage and destabilize the Taiwan domestically and internationally. So.
And what do you think is the most effective way that now is being presented in Taiwan to deal with the internal sabotage? What are you hopeful about this new policy that's now coming into place?
Well, I think this is a good sign that we found out that espionage thing is happening. So we're trying to stop that from happening. And the people has to realize, be careful. Someone probably is trying to infiltrate into Taiwan. But again, I think that should not be affecting our daily life. And government trying to do everything possible. Government officials, in the militaries, they have to be extra careful to face this from happening.
That's true, and I think do you have concrete examples of things that are now being put in place?
Well, you have to. Well, probably one thing is important is government is trying to find out the background, and people. If you go to some other, you come back from mainland China, you have to do some report or something like a government official. So if you want to invite it to China, you probably do have to get the permission. That's already done. So I think so many ways to do that. So many ways. I can provide you the detail. Yeah.
Sounds good. And I have one final question. Taiwan is, like you said, a relatively small country, around 23 million people. That's a little bit more than we have here in the Netherlands with 18 million people. What do you think is the greatest ingredient to the success of Taiwan that people can learn from? Because you're a relatively small country, but you are in many ways, for example, economically quite successful.
Well, like I said, we've been living under the shadow of the threat for the last 70 years. But we still believe the value that we all share the same value, which I think is a democracy, freedom, and human rights. On top of that, I think Taiwan has another value as a resilience. Under that kind of situation, we can still develop, we can still prosper, we can still be a part of the international community. We can still contribute the benefit of the world. So I think the best way to understand, I would invite the listener to come to Taiwan to see for yourselves. We have the most beautiful coast. We have the highest mountain in that part of the world. We have the very beautiful bike route around the islands. I think your people will enjoy biking around Taiwan. And also, we have some wonderful food. Probably you can enjoy, but Taiwan is becoming the hub of international cuisine over the years because the economic prosperity, a lot of business, they will come to Taiwan. So come to see for yourself. I think we can extend your forefathers' 400 years history. We can extend for the future.
That's great. Thank you so much for having this interview. If people want to follow more of what's going on about Taiwan, what would you recommend? How can they stay in touch a little bit with what's happening?
We're always here. Check our website. Our office website is always convenient. Now, particularly, we have something. We have a new subject in our website is talking about the Dutch culture, Dutch food. They attract so many thousands of viewers from Taiwan and some other places. We believe they will attract more people to come to Netherlands. On the other hand, I want to use this opportunity to encourage the young people, because Taiwan and the Netherlands, we have signed the working holiday. We have more people come to Netherlands instead of more people from the Netherlands to come to Taiwan. I encourage that more young people take this advantage to find out how to do the working holiday. Contact us. We'd like you to use these working holidays to come to Taiwan to understand more.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this wonderful conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope our listeners also did. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for your interview. Come to Taiwan.
Definitely, definitely. And thank you also to all our listeners who make these kind of conversations possible. If you want to support New Rechts, then you can become a member at newrechts.nl. Thank you, and see you in the next one.